until to distant lands. The blaze of glory flows. Fire from Zion, light the skies. Burning hearts and open eyes. The world will see your kingdom near. Your name declare. Your voice made clear. Shalom. Has anyone ever tell you the truth behind this pagan holiday called Halloween? I would like to start with reading from the Tanakh, Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. This is part one, titled The Truth of Halloween: Origins, Reflection, and Backgrounds. Halloween, also known as Samhain, is in some tradition is a celebration with ancient roots that has become a popular holiday in many countries. According to the article, this holiday has its origin in Celtic and Druidic practices, where October 31st was believed to be a day when the spirits of the dead could roam the earth. The modern celebration of Halloween in America began around 1845, introduced by Irish immigrants. Current practices, such as costumes, have their origin in ancient Celtic customs where people dressed up to scare away evil spirits. In some modern Wiccan traditions, Samhain, Halloween, is considered the new year and is one of the main three holidays. It is important to note that although Halloween has pagan roots, its meaning and celebration have evolved over time, and today it is primarily a secular holiday in many places. We previously did an article on the subject where you can see it here, published in 2016. But if you want to know more in depth about everything related to this pagan festival, its relationship, its origin, ethics, paranormal, reflective questions, statements, and other issues, join us in this exhaustive and complete article where we will go in detail describing the origins and occult roots behind this traditional festival that has permeated strongly in our current society. The Truth About Halloween, an important book in the popular series The Truth About Halloween, known for their extensive research and biblical insights. These authors provide readers with the essential data that they need to assess and debate current issues related to Halloween, a popular event involving children and growing adults. 1. Preambles. 2. Halloween, ancient, medieval, and modern. What is the true origin of Halloween? The Druids. What is occultism? Druidic feast. Halloween specific custom related to pagan beliefs. Irish parties. What is the origin of pumpkin? How did the trick-or-treating traditions begin? What is the origin of Halloween's costumes? What is the meaning of fruits and nuts on Halloween? How did the tradition of telling ghost stories come about? How does Halloween historically relate to the Roman Catholic Church, the dead, and purgatory? These are some of the titles. I will not go through it all, but I will start with part one. Both adults and children enjoy participating in the parties known as Halloween. In terms of marketing, Halloween has become a big business. The holiday is now the second most popular event for marketing activities after Christmas. According to a survey by the National Retail Foundation, U.S. customers spent more than $4.96 billion on Halloween in 2006, an average of 59.06 per person dollars. $59 per 0.06 per person. The National Confectioners Association reported in 2005 that 80% of adults plan to hand out trick or treating candies and that 93% of children plan trick or treating. Even adults are actively involved as at least 1 in 3 adults will buy costumes. Halloween has become the second or third biggest party night of the year, depending on who's keeping score, behind New Year's Eve and Super Bowl Sunday. More than ever, Halloween has become a hugely popular holiday. Interestingly, Halloween is also National Magic Day, observed all over the world by magicians, and even National Magic Week is celebrated from October 25 to November 3rd. But many people have mixed feelings about the issue of Halloween. Do your pagan religious association spirituality or ethically disqualify it as an activity that Christians can celebrate? In the truth about Halloween, we will investigate the origin of Halloween, its historical and contemporary relationship to paganism and witchcraft, its symbols, and some of the mysteries commonly associated with Halloween, such as ghosts, houses, and magic. We will also offer biblical guidelines and biblical practices for evaluating Halloween from a Christian worldview. Halloween, ancient, medieval, and modern. What is the true origin of Halloween? Portraits of Pope. This portrait, which I'm looking here, is a portrait of Pope Gregory the Fourth, or the 17th century. In 835 A.D., Pope Gregory the Fourth designated November 1st as All Saints' Day. The term a hallow refers to saints. The night before November 1st, October 31st, was known as All Saints' Eve. You can see article The Papacy Analyst Background and History. How did the term Halloween come about? Look at the name All Hallows, evening. If we eliminate the word All from Halloween, the S from Hallows, and the V and ing from evening, the result is Halloween. Long before the church gave this name to the Eve of All Saints' Day, a celebration in memory of saints and holy martyrs, it was already celebrated in various ways in many places around the world. The book Every Day's a Holiday accurately points out the following about Halloween. It probably combines more folk customs from around the world than can ever be classified, cataloged, and traced back to their sources. In general, historians agree that Halloween came to take the place of a special day celebrated by the ancient Druids. The Druids were the culture or priestly class of Celtic religion. The Celts themselves were the first Aryan people to arrive from Asia to settle in Europe. In fact, we can observe certain similarities between Druidism and the religion of India. The Celtic religion, presided over by the Druids, the priestly order, presents beliefs in various nature, deities, and certain ceremonies and practices similar to those of the Indian religion. The Insulsur, the Insular Celts, and the people of India also share certain similarities of language and culture, indicating a common heritage. For example, the Indian pagan gods Siva Pasupati, which means lords of the animals, and Savitir, god of the sun, are similar to the Celtic gods Cernunnos, a horned god who appears in a yoga position, and the god Lug or Lugus, perhaps originally a god of the sun. As in Hinduism, the Druids also believed in reincarnation, specifically in the transmigration of the souls, which teach that people can be reborn as animals. Celtic people lived in northern France, throughout the United Kingdom, and in Ireland. They practiced occult arts, worshiped nature, and conferred supernatural and animistic qualities on it. Some trees or plants, such as oak and mistletoe, had great spiritual significance. According to the Celtic authority Lewis Spence, the original meaning of the term Druids implied a priest of the oak cult. Interestingly, it has been claimed that 90% of the world's sometimes mysterious crop circles are located in the geographical vicinity of the ancient and possibly Druidic ruins of Stonehenge. At least some of these phenomena can be considered supernatural. Some facts about the Druids are controversial or uncertain. There are geographical peculiarities and differences between early and late Druidism. What is occultism? Religious writers often use the word occult, but what does it mean? According to the Oxford American Dictionary, occult can be defined as 1. Secret, hidden, except for those with more than ordinary knowledge. 2. Which implies the supernatural, occult powers. The occult implies the world of the supernatural, mystical, or magical. In everyday usage, occultism is often used to refer to spiritual practices that focus on secret knowledge gained through personal experience or attempts to communicate with spirits. The term is used to refer to everything from earth, ancient religions to modern conversations about ghosts and plant phantasmagorias. Sorry. The Celts worshipped the sun god, Belenus, especially at Beltane on May 1st, and worshipped another god, apparently the Lord of Death or Lord of the Dead, at Samhain, pronounced Samhain by Wiccans. On October 31st, Beltane, Fire of Bel, was the summer party, while Samhain, it was the winter festival. On both occasions, human sacrifices were offered. According to Julius Caesar in his commentaries and other sources, the Celts believed they were descendants from the gods. This, a traditional passed down by Druids. This was the Roman name for the god of the dead. Of the 400 known Celtic god names, Belenus is the most frequently mentioned. Samhain as the specific name of the Death Lord is uncertain, but it is possible that the Death Lord was the main Druid deity. We will follow the common practice of other authors on this subject and refer to this deity by the name of Samhain. Druidic feast. The Celts and their Druids priests began their new year on November 1st, which marked the beginning of winter. They apparently believed that on October 31st, the night before their new year and the last day of the old year, Samhain gathered the souls of the evil dead who had been condemned to enter the bodies of animals. He could then decide what animals form they would take over the next year. The souls of the good dead were reincarnated as humans. The Druids also believed that the punishment of the evil dead could be lightened by sacrifices, prayers, and gifts to Samhain. The Druids' worshippers tried to satisfy and please this deity because of his power over the souls of the dead, whether they were good or bad souls. For those who had died during the previous 12 months, Samhain allowed their spirits to return to the earth, to their former dwelling place, for a few hours to associate again with their families. As a result of this belief, the Celts taught that on their New Year's Eve, our Halloween, ghosts, evil spirits, and witches roamed the earth. To honor the sun god Belenus and scare away evil spirits who were supposedly afraid of fire, large bonfires were lit on hilltops. In Spence's The History and Origin of Druidism, we read, the most prominent feature of Samhain was the burning of a large bonfire. Samhain was also a festival of the dead, whose spirits at this time were believed to roam the countryside, causing fear to the people in general, to expel them from the fields and enclosures of the villages. The logs of the bonfire were paraded through the region. Divination was made about the fate of the individual throughout the new year. For several days before New Year's Eve, October 31st, young people would roam the neighborhood begging for materials to build these huge bonfires. Bonfires were believed to not only scare away evil spirits, but also rejuvenate the sun. Until recently, the Halloween bonfires of the Scots were called Samhain, indicating the lingering influence of the ancient Celtic holiday. It was also believed that on this night, evil or frustrated ghosts played tricks on humans and caused supernatural manifestations, just like poltergeists do today. As part of the celebration, people dressed in gro- gro- grotesque masks and danced around the large bonfires, often pretending to be haunted by evil spirits. In addition, food was put in so that the ghosts or souls of the good dead that Samhain had released would feel welcome at home. As Samhain ushered in a new year, an interest in divination, the magical art of interpreting the unknown from random patterns of symbols, and divination became an important part of this holiday. For example, the Druids believed that the particular shape of various fruits and vegetables could help predict or guess the future. The victims of human sacrifice were used for the same purpose. When the Romans conquered Britain, some of their customs were added to the traditions of the Druids, while others, such as human sacrifice, were banned. The celebration of Samhain was not exclusive to the Jews. Many festivals around the world celebrate the time when the dead return to mingle with the living. Hindus call it the Night of Holi. Iraqis, Native Americans, hold a feast of the dead every 12 years, honoring all those who have died during the previous 12 years with prayers. In Mexico, the national holiday of Dia de los Muertos begins on November 2 and lasts for several days. In this horrifying festivity, death becomes a kind of neighborhood figure, which appears in sweets, jewelry, toy, bread, cakes, etc. It is the time when the souls of the dead return and when the living must honor them. For example, the doors are decorated with flowers to welcome the little angels, the souls of the dead children. For the most part, then, our modern Halloween seems to have its initial origin in the practices of the ancient Druids at their winter festival, October 31st. Mexican Day of the Dead celebration. There's a portrait here for that. Has crosses and skeletons flying around with dead people sitting at the banks. Are Halloween specific customs related to pagan beliefs? Since Halloween itself originated from paganism, it's no surprise that its customs are related to pagan beliefs. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, in ancient Britain and Ireland, the Celtic festival of Samhain was celebrated on October 31st at the end of the summer. The souls of the dead were supposed to revisit their homes on that day, and the autumn feast took on a sinister significance as ghosts, witches, goblins, black cats, fairies, and demons of all kinds were said to roam. It was time to placate the supernatural powers that control the process of nature. In addition, Halloween was believed to be the most propitious time for divinations related to marriage, luck, health, and death. It was the only day on which the devil's help was invoked for such purposes. There is no doubt that Halloween symbols, customs, and practices have exerted various influence on Western culture throughout history. However, in the early days of America history, Halloween was not celebrated due to the country's strong Christian heritage. It was not celebrated in generalized way until the 20th century. At first, it was only practiced in small Irish Catholic settlements until thousands of Irish immigrated to America during the Great Potato Famine and brought their custom with them. To some extent, our modern Halloween is an Irish holiday that has its origin in the Celtic winter holiday. Interestingly, in American culture, Halloween rises in popularity also roughly coincides with the national rise of spiritualism that began in 1848. Irish Party. Ireland is the only place in the world where Halloween is actually a national holiday, celebrated with fireworks. Even children are released from school during that week. Among the modern customs and practices of Halloween, we can point to numerous probable or possible influences, such of which are set out below. What is the origin of pumpkin? The carved pumpkin may have its origin in the witches' use of a collection of skulls with a candle in each to light the way to the coven meetings. But among the Irish, who, as has been said, drove the popularization of Halloween in America. The legend of the Irish Jack explains the Jack o' lantern. According to legend, a stingy drunk named Jack tricked the devil into climbing an apple tree for an apple. but then cut the sign of a cross on the trunk of the tree to prevent the devil from coming down. Jack forced the devil to wear that to swear that he would never go after Jack's soul. The devil reluctantly agreed. Jack eventually died, but was rejected at the gates of heaven because of his drunkenness and selfish life. He was sent to the devil, who also rejected him, fulfilling his promise. Since Jack had nowhere to go, he was condemned to wander the earth. When he was coming out of hell, he happened to be eating a turnip. The devil threw an ember at him. Jack dipped the ember in the turnip and has always wandered the land with his jack o' lantern ever since in search of a resting place. Over time, pumpkins replaced turnips as it was much easier to symbolize the devil's charcoal inside a pumpkin. So how did the trick or treating tradition begin? There are several ancient practices that point to this tradition. One possibility is that the ancient witches had to steal the materials needed for their parties. It is possible that the Druids believed that witches celebrated this day as something special, something clearly true for modern witches. The idea of trick or treat is further related to the ghost of the dead in pagan and even Catholic history. For example, among the ancient Druids, the ghosts that were believed to swarm the houses of the living were greeted with a table full of banquets. At the end of the banquet, masked and costumed villagers, representing the souls of the dead, paraded through the outskirts of the city, driving away the ghost. As noted above, there's a magazine here with a kid taking all sorts of candies. Halloween was believed to be a night when mischievous and evil spirits roam freely, as in the modern poltergeist tradition. Mischievous spirits could play pranks on the living, so it was advantageous to hide from them by wearing disguises. Masks and costumes were worn to scare away ghosts or to avoid being recognized by them. Especially in Ireland, people believe that ghosts and spirits roam on Halloween night. They lit candles and lanterns towards off towards off the spirits, and if they had to go outside, they wore costumes and masks to frighten the spirits or not to be recognized by these supernatural beings. What is the origin of Halloween costumes? In addition to the reasons stated above, Halloween masks and costumes were used to conceal attendance at pagan festivals, or as in tradition, shamanism meditated by a pagan witch or a priest, and other forms of animism to change the wearer's personality and allow communication with the spirit world. In this case, the could be used to scare away evil spirits. On the other hand, the costume wearers could use a mask to try to attract and absorb the power of the animal represented by the mask and costume they were wearing. According to this hypothesis, Halloween costumes could have their origin in the ceremonies of Celtic Jews, who wore animal heads and skins to acquire the strength of a certain animal. An additional layer of tradition that explains the origin of Halloween costumes comes from the medieval Catholic practice of displaying the relics of saints on All Saints' Day. The poor church could not afford relics, so they instituted a procession with the parishioners dressed as patron saints. The extra dressed as angels or demons, and they all paraded through the courtyard of the church. Going door to door in search of treats may have its origin in Druidic practice of begging for material for large bonfires. As we will see later, it is also related to the Catholic concept of purgatory and the custom of begging for a soul cake. As for the custom of Halloween, trick, it is related to the idea that ghosts and witches were up to mischief on this particular night. For example, if the living did not provide food or treats to the spirits, they deceived the living. People feared that terrible things would happen to them if they did not honor the spirits. The Druids also believed that if their gods were not worshipped, the consequences would be dire. If the gods were not treated properly in the ritual, they would seek revenge. It was so. It was, therefore, a scary day. In addition, some people soon realized that a mischievous sense of humor or even malevolence could be camouflage to play practical jokes or hurt others and blame it on the ghosts or witches that were around. What is the meaning of fruits and nuts on Halloween? Halloween tradition often includes centerpiece with fruits, apples, and nuts. Three of the sacred fruits of the Celts were acorn, apples, and walnuts, especially the hazelnuts, considered a god, and the acorn, sacred because of its association with the oak. Fruits and nuts also seem to be related to the Roman harvest festival of Pomona, apparently the goddess of fruit. For example, in ancient Rome, cider was raffled and the Roman took out apples, which was part of a divination that supposedly helped a person discover their future marriage partner. How did the tradition of telling ghost stories come about? Ghost storytelling became a natural expression of Halloween when it was believed that dead souls were everywhere and that good, mischievous, and evil spirits roamed freely. These stories also originated as a personal expression of these beliefs. How does Halloween historically relate to the Roman Catholic Church, the dead, and purgatory? In the Middle Ages and the early Middle Ages, the Catholic Church attempted to oppose the paganism of the holiday of Samhain by declaring November 1st All Saints' Day and November 2nd All Souls' Day. As noted, All Saints' Day was a remembrance and celebration of saints, especially those who were heroic martyrs, people who died for their faith. All Saints' Day became a day when Roman Catholics prayed for the deceased to help them escape the torments of purgatory. In 607 or 610 AD, Pope Boniface IV, see article The Papacy and Annalist Background and History, departed severely from the biblical teachings by dedicating the Roman Pantheon, formerly a pagan temple dedicated to all known gods, the Virgin Mary, and all Christian martyrs. This was done on May 13th, a day that became a holiday in 835. Pope Gregory IV moved this feast to November 1st and expanded it to include All Saints. As a result, November 1st, All Saints' Day, the day after Halloween, All Hallows Eve, became a day dedicated by the Catholic Church to the Virgin Mary and the saints. Over time, November 2nd became All Saints' Day, a special day to pray for the dead. As we shall see, this custom supposedly originated from the mystical vision of the Catholic saint Odilo, who died in 1048, helping the dead. Unfortunately, the Roman Catholic Church remnants, remnants, sorry, reminiscent of the ancient Druids continues to teach that the living can help alleviate the sufferings of the dead through various acts. For example, a person may supposedly pray for tormented souls in purgatory and relieve their pains through specific and sacrificial acts, such as penance, participation in the sacraments, mortification, use of the rosary, good works, and almsgiving. Special attention is paid to prayers to the Virgin Mary, who is credited with the power to deliver those suffering from purgatory. The Catholic concept of purgatory has many parallels in other religions, but it must be stressed that the idea of purgatory is not mentioned at all in the Bible. The idea of praying to the Virgin Mary or praying for the dead is neither biblical nor Christian, nor the less scriptural. For more information, see the facts of Roman Catholicism. Masses for the deceased. The Catholic saint Odilo was about abbot of Cluny. He had a vision similar to that of other Catholic saints or mystics, of souls suffering terribly in purgatory. This view led him to the unscriptural practice of having special masses said on behalf of these souls in all Cluny affiliated churches. This new practice soon spread. A U.S. Catholic article observes, by the end of the 13th century, All Saints' Day, November 2, had become an established feast for praying for our departed throughout the Latin Church. The article points out that Halloween, All Saints' Day, and All Souls' Day are days to concentrate in this order: 1. In sin, 2. In sanctification, and 3. The dead. And on November 2nd, All Saints' Day, let's hope that some people will go to the cemetery or a church and pray for us. They're dead. Halloween, All Saints' Day, All Souls' Day, October 31st, November 1st, November 2nd, are holidays, and All Saints' Day is a day of obligation. We must admit that we are sinners, that we are obligated to honor the saints and called to be saints ourselves, and that it is our duty to remember our dead, the faithful departed. Oh boy. As noted, it was the ancient pagan Druids who believed in a concept similar to purgatory. The Celts believed that the sinful souls of those who had died during the year had been relegated to the bodies of animals. Through gifts and sacrifices, their sins could be atoned for and their souls freed to claim a heavenly reward. Samhain judged souls and decreed how their existence should continue, whether in the body of a human being or in that of an animal. However, there are other historical and contemporary examples of how Halloween and purgatory evolved from pagan practices and are related. In the late 19th century, it was customary for English Catholics to gather at midnight on Halloween and pray for the souls of their deceased friends. In November 1909, a person related that his grandfather lit a bundle of straw and threw it into the air with his gallows Short prayers were said while the straw was lit and thrown. When asked about it, my grandfather replied that it was to represent holy souls escaping from the purgatory to heaven. A probing answer might be to ask, is there any place in the Bible that promotes this view? In Belgium, on November 2nd, All Saints' Day cakes are eaten because, supposedly, the more cakes eaten that night, the more souls can be saved from purgatory. Where does the Bible suggest this? In Sicily, or on All Saints' Day, cakes with images of skulls and skeletons are eaten. A popular Halloween song in the Philippines says, we are ordinary souls. From the purgatory we have come, and there we are obligated to pray night and day. If you are to give alms, please make haste, for the gate of heaven may be closed to us forever. It says, Jesus is the only one who holds the key to the gate of heaven. He promises to open it to anyone who trusts him as their only savior from sin. In France, All Souls Day, Le Jour des Morts, is dedicated to praying for the deceased who have not yet been glorified. Ruth Hutchinson and Ruth Adams say that in times past people brought special loaves called souls to cemeteries and placed them on graves. People ate these soul cakes because they were thought to serve as a powerful antidote to the flames of purgatory that would be summoned by returning ghosts. At nightfall, the feast changed from All Saints' Day to All Hallows' Eve. Lighted candles were placed over graves and in windows to guide the deceased back home. In the Middle Age, on All Saints' Day, the poor went to beg for soul cakes, which they were given as payment for the prayers they had promised to pray for the deceased. These examples illustrate how Halloween is related to both ancient Celtic practice and the Catholic concept of purgatory. It is significant that the Lutheran Church dedicated October 31st, or the nearest Sunday, to commemorating the beginning of the Protestant Reformation. In Martin Luther's time, the corrupt practice of buying indulgences for the dead who suffered in purgatory was common fittingly in 1517. On Halloween itself, Luther took his 95th thesis, which attacked the concept of selling indulgences to free those in purgatory, and nailed them to the door of the castle church in Wittenberg, Germany. We see a portrait here of Luther nailing the 95th thesis in Wittenberg. Is Halloween related to modern pagan practices? Despite historical evidence about the origin of Halloween practices, Halloween is now assumed to be an innocent time for most children. However, it is a very serious observance for many witches, neo-pagans, and other similar religious groups. Before going any further, it should be noted that historical and contemporary spiritual associations of Halloween have produced a crossover effect on society at large, so that in some cases, even the celebration of Halloween is not a seemingly innocent practice. This concludes with the first part of the truth of Halloween. Pray that it was helpful in understanding what is really going down with all these pagan holidays and the viewpoints of each practice. I pray that everyone who opens their eyes and see that these holidays are not at all biblical, nonetheless tyrannical. So those who follow the Torah, evidently they don't follow this, but for many other religions, I pray that they open their eyes and stop celebrating and participating in all these costumes and practices that are totally pagan, as well as the holiday of Christmas, which we will also find out. That Elohim may open your eyes and that you will see how evil and what participation you are having when you practice these feasts. So, Shalom Aleichem to all, and that all may be well today. Amen.
Shalom, everlasting Lord, peace and love.